The following is a special presentation of Extreme eSpeed TV, your new home for everything iRacing and eSpeed.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway. It's the National Kidney Foundation 153 for the Light Electric Company NextGen Series. You're watching Extreme eSpeed TV. My name is Travis Piercefield, and as usual, I'm joined by John Hine. John, we come to Nashville, which qualifying is currently going on for another exciting night of Light Electric Company NextGen Series action.
Yeah, another night and another track that's going to present a little bit of a challenge. This one's a little bit narrow. It invites you to overdrive the corners a little bit, and we should be in for a good race here tonight.
So we see Matt McMeekin shoots to the top of the charts. We were watching practice earlier. We've got 18 cars here tonight. There were some of our familiar foes up top: Steve Baker, Derek Myers, Troy Radford. Chris Medford was as well. His first lap was not as fast as what you would have thought after practice. But coming to Nashville Super Speedway, what kind of characteristics are we going to see give these drivers some problems tonight, John?
Well, number one, the surface, it's concrete. And I think at this one here, at least some of the races I've been in, really choose tires up here. So, number one, tire management is going to be very, very strategic here. We've seen other races where that can play into pit strategy, where there's almost a second and a half, maybe even 2 second difference from the laps at the end of a run to the laps at the beginning of a run. So that's number one. And like I said, too, that this track kind of invites you to almost overdrive these corners a little bit. And when you do, you just eat up that right front tire. You're putting a lot of wheel into it to try to get the car to turn. It might wash up the track if you got someone to your outside. Things could get a little hairy if that happens. So a lot of neat stuff can happen here. This is going to be one that's going to challenge the drivers from the start of this race all the way to the finish.
So we saw another exciting race last week at Darlington. Derek Myers picked up his first career victory. Looking at the historicals, he is collecting stats quick and early. He's got 4 starts, 1 pole, 1 win, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and after last week's dominating performance, 170 laps led. Coming into this series, just a handful of starts now, John, he's really making his name known as someone that's going to be around at the end of each and every race.
Yes, he is. He seems like a guy who races pretty smart here. Knows when to kind of the old Kenny Rogers saying, knows when to hold them, knows when to fold them, knows when to walk away, and he seems to put his car in the right positions throughout the night and is able to capitalize when he does have opportunities. So it'll be fun watching him continue to challenge. I do expect him to be up front. His first lap though is into the wall. I was watching his lap, so he's going to have to come from deep in the field here tonight.
As he goes, Troy Radford, Matt McMeekin still at the top of the charts. Steve Baker put down the 3rd fastest, so he's a usual suspect up at the top of the charts each and every week. He had another good lap, and as you mentioned, Derek Myers into the wall hard. He's currently 17th fastest. He'll start at the back of the pack. Another thing we talked about last week, Brian Littleton had given up the points lead going into Darlington. His consistency paid off last week. He moves back into the points lead. He's now got a 5-point lead over Travis Smith, 10-point lead over Troy Radford, and then it's 40 back to Chris Spencer, who's currently in 4th. Brian Mescal Jr. rounds out the top 5. He's 54 points back. But we're seeing, some bad luck or just wrong place, wrong time, John, is one of those scenarios where one bad week can really set you back in points, but then you're able to rebound the next week if you're able to put a good run together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian Littleton has done a phenomenal job all year, just knocking off top 5s, top 6s. I mean, just really gobbling up points. And I haven't really seen him have a whole lot of bad luck. And it seems like it's come just in one little stretch here. But it's a long season. And I just have to think, as consistent as he is, he's still got to be one of the favorites here to lock it up long term.
So it's Troy Radford at the top of the charts. It looks like the drivers' meeting's begun. So it'll be Troy Radford picking up the Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award here at Nashville. That would be his 22nd career light electric company next gen series pole. And as we mentioned, he's entered his name into that point standings chase. Had a rough finish last week at Darlington. He fell back to third in points, but he's still only 10 points back of Brian Littleton. So you know there's some guys here that are looking for a really good finish. And as we look ahead to tonight's race, John, it feels like it's going to be another one of those fuel mileage races where that pit strategy is really going to come into place. Maybe not fuel mileage per se, but the timing of the pits and what your tires and fuel does for you is going to come into play.
Yeah, I think so. These guys really seem to do that well. I like to watch Formula One, and when I watch these guys, from the pitting strategies and stuff like that, it's a lot the same, for the undercut and things like that. And these guys just do a really good job of staying on top of it and employing different strategies. And we've seen them all over the board work. We've seen guys that have stayed out and stretched them, come home with a victory. We've seen guys that have short pitted and have made the undercut work, and then they take home the trophy. So, yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on what's going to be going on along pit road here tonight, because that very well could factor into who gets to visit Victory Lane tonight.
Someone up at the top of the charts, fifth quickest in qualifying, John, is Lance Yancey. I was trying to think back. I think it was either Chicagoland or Charlotte. He had a very fast car. He ended up coming up through the field. I think he got caught up in a wreck, but one of those similar mile-and-a-half tracks that we've been to recently, he had a very fast car, and looking at his qualifying time, it's looking fast here again at Nashville. The other thing we've seen all season long, though, is where you start doesn't necessarily matter. If these guys have the right car or the track fits them, they're able to race up through the field or just dominate up front if they're able to get that good starting spot.
Yeah, and the one thing about this series too, that a lot of people they can't see because they can't see the Discord, but there's a lot of teams in this series, and they really work together well. And the teams that I think that are working well together really can help employ those strategies and help each other out to an extent. I think that most of these guys, from the best I can tell, will always kind of want to beat their teammate, but it doesn't mean they can't help each other along the way, and they seem to do that. So that I do think that's also comes into to play here with these guys a lot.
When we've seen it, like your reference to F1, the fact that there's not that many cautions in these races for this
Yes.
series, but it also, if they do come out, they don't come out at the right times for that one stop or that where it comes into play. So it kind of throws some drivers off. It doesn't really play into the race feel of it. It'll come early. It'll come after a pit stop was just made. So it really comes into that team strategy. We've seen pit windows from 10 laps to almost 20 laps of guys trying to stay out there, try to get everything they can, or put themselves in a position for a caution to fall, or to make that second pit stop work for them. And it doesn't always work for everyone, but it seems like the fast cars are always up front at the end of these races.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys that seem to know how to find the fun seem to continually do so. And we've seen some guys that have popped up there from time to time, but they just haven't seemed to be able to close the deal. But and not through any fault of their own. We've seen a lot of bad luck happen to quite a few guys here in this league and whatnot. So yeah, that's the cool thing about this every week. You just don't know until these guys get on the track and who's going to do what. And there's always seems to be a surprise every week.
Looking at Nashville Super Speedway, it's in Lebanon, Tennessee, just east of Nashville, the metropolitan area. You can see it's a 1.3-mile track. Temperature tonight, 78 degrees. Humidity at 60%. Upcoming schedule, we've got Pocono next Sunday. Then we go to Road America, Hickory, and Bristol. Three very different tracks coming up. Throw Bristol in there. There's actually a couple short tracks coming up on the schedule, which should add a level of difficulty for these drivers as we look ahead. But with that, the Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award will go to Troy Radford, as mentioned, his 22nd career light electric company next gen series pole of his career. And John, it looks like they're gridding out on the track, and as usual, you have our starting lineup.
Yeah, and just real quick, it looks like this field is going to be bookended with Radfords. You got Troy up front, and you got Rory out in the back here, so pretty neat in a way. But yeah, on the pole is going to be Troy Radford in his 94 machine. Next to him will be Matt McMeekin in the 41. Starting in the second row will be Steve Baker, and next to him will be Chris Medford. Starting in the third row will be Lance Yancey and Brandon Medford. Then our point leader is going to start in row 4 there. That's going to be Brian Littleton, and next to him will be Dustin Ping. And then the fifth row will be Mike Massengill and Roy Hyde. Starting in the sixth row will be Jimmy Hetrick and Hunter Tate. Starting in the seventh row will be the number 27 of Nathan Bishop and the 33 of Brian Miskell Jr. Starting 15th in the field tonight is going to be the number 22 of Matt Kopp. Next to him will be the number 30 of Bobby Hetrick. And rounding out the field tonight, we saw him win last week. It's going to be that number 24 of Derek Myers. He had some trouble here in qualifying. And next to him is going to be that number 47 of Roy Radford.
So that is our starting lineup for tonight's race here. It is the National Kidney Foundation 153 at Nashville Super Speedway. As always, happy for you to join us. Make sure you like the Extreme eSpeed Network Facebook page, as we've got 115 laps around this 1.3 mile oval under the lights tonight. Always exciting. I don't care where it's at. Racing under lights just feels better.
It does, and from the driver's seat, it feels like a big race, for these guys anyway. These guys run under the lights an awful lot, I do believe, but I don't know. Whenever I'm in the car, the race feels like a bigger race under the lights.
As the iRacing pace car will dive on in, it's going to be Troy Radford, Matt McMeekin leading us to green here at Nashville. And we are green. The first lap is underway. Great start by Radford on the inside. Steve Baker's able to follow him up through. As Baker's able to fall in line, they'll move to the inside. Matt McMeekin's able to move down to that inside as well. And Baker's going to make a move for the lead on the backstretch.
Yeah, side by side here a little bit going down into turn 1 here, or turn 3. And, man, I tell you, neither one's really giving a whole lot here, but it looks like Radford's going to fall back into second there.
So Baker will lead lap number 1 here at Nashville. Troy Radford's able to fall in line. He'll try to cross him over, won't, fall back in line. And as usual, John, we're single file around this track with some guys making moves throughout, but really getting into a rhythm and a feel here early in Nashville.
Yeah, these guys are pretty good about, getting things situated, get a couple laps to get the car under you, and then they start racing. It doesn't mean they follow each other, around single file. They start racing hard amongst themselves in those individual positions as you go through the field. So always good racing here with these guys, and they race smart and respectful.
So watching back in the pack, you got Hunter Tate there in that 8 on the inside, the 48 of Hetrick to his outside. Jimmy Hetrick trying to get into the top 10 there. Up ahead, you've got Dustin Ping making a move on Brian Littleton.
Yeah, this is a track I'm gonna be curious to see how many lanes kind of become viable in the corners. Is it going to be along the bottom where you see most of the guys up front, or will that second lane maybe come in, or maybe it's only good for a couple, 2-3 laps on a restart. But I'll be interested to see as tires wear and the cars don't stick as good, if those cars start to move up the longer the run goes.
In practice, it looked like turn number 4, and even the qualifying run for Derek Myers, it was turn number 4 that gave him problems. What is it with number 4 here at Nashville that can give a driver problems, John?
Just the transition, with the banking in the corner, the track kind of flattens out a little bit. It's real easy to lose the back end. You can, not only does this track want you to overdrive the corner a little bit, but you also kind of feel like you can pick the throttle up maybe a little bit easier than a little bit earlier than what you should be picking it up.
So you can see the field 1 through 18, all single file currently, a trend we've seen all season long. Working lap number 6 here at Nashville. Troy Radford in that second position has Matt McMeekin all over the back of him. Matt was having a great run last week at Darlington. He had some problems late that got him pushed back in the field, but a good run for him until then. He's looking to complete the great run tonight. Currently running third. Lance Yancey's moved up 1 spot to 4th.
Yeah, pretty tame so far for the first 6 or 7 guys here. I think this is a relatively newer track to the service here in iRacing. So I'm going to venture to say a lot of these guys probably have some experience here, but not quite as much as some tracks that have been around for years. So I'm going to bet this first part of this race, this is really a continued test session. I know they had an hour before they, raced here tonight, and I'm sure that quite a few of them probably took some laps throughout the week to get ready, but nothing simulates race pace and race conditions.
Don't look now, but John, Derek Myers already moved up 6 spots to 11th. He's knocking on the door of the top 10, and that 33 Brian Mescal Jr. right behind him has started to make his way up through the field behind Myers, as now they set their sights on Hedrick in that 48.
Yeah, Myers once again is showing that his pace is really, really good here. So not a big surprise from what we've seen so far in his short LEC career, but I do expect him to be a player definitely, though, before the night's out.
Up front, the front 3 continue to follow in line. It's Steve Baker up front. Steve's been a winner multiple times this year, so him running up front is per usual as Troy Radford continues to try to chase down another win. He won earlier this year at Charlotte, looking to pick up win number 2 of the year, as we've got 9 laps down, working lap 10, 115 total will make up our National Kidney Foundation 153 tonight here at Nashville.
Yeah, these guys are definitely have this look of, I think we're going to settle into a long green flag run here, and it'll be interesting to see who's going to pit first and try to employ the undercut and all that kind of good stuff here. We're a ways off from that yet, but it looks like the guys are probably going to have to start thinking about those green flag pit stops here after probably about 15, 20 laps, I suspect.
Looking back in the field, that's Nathan Bishop in the 27 as he battles the 30 of Bobby Hedrick. Mike Massengill back there in the 4, looking to make his way back up through the field. And up front, it's Steve Baker. He's still followed by Troy Radford, Matt McMeekin, Lance Yancey, and Chris Medford. Yancey and Medford side by side. Now Ping will move to the inside of Yancey. And he'll complete the pass. Yancey off of rhythm. He's now 3 wide with Littleton and Brandon Medford. After running in the top 5 all night thus far, he's quickly falling back. It looks like he'll move back to 8th. So when you're in a rhythm race like this so far early in this race, John, if you do get kicked off of that or you have a bad corner, what's kind of going through your mind to get that reset and not lose a ton of ground?
That I just need to get back into my rhythm as quickly as possible. And if you got cars to your inside pass, and sometimes you got to wait for that hole to open to get yourself in there. And then once you do, you just got to take that lap or 2, get the car back under you. Make sure you didn't make the tires mad at you. If you abuse them a little bit, heat them up a little bit, the car's not going to do what you want to do for maybe a lap or 2. You got to just get back into, a good spot there where you're not abusing them. But, one thing I've noticed here, Travis, the top 5, they're not separating. Usually, 15, 20 laps into a run, we might see one guy get away or maybe a couple guys. But these guys are all nose to tail still.
They are. They're all about 2/10 from each other, so the gap pretty consistent throughout them. They're also the closest battles on the track for the most part, and they're able to stay up. They've broke away from the 6th place car. They're about 0.8 of a second from Littleton there, which you can see. But they are really sticking together right now. And normally we've had, like you mentioned, we've had a car that really dominates and will break away, get that clean air, break away from the rest of the pack. Not seeing that this far, which could lead to an exciting battle at the end if this holds par. We'll also see how the pit stops fall. We've seen some guys use those pit stops to really pick up some ground. And John, looking at the times, they've already fallen about 3/10 from the start of this race. How much time do you think they'll lose here during a green flag run?
Second and a half. I won't be a bit surprised even if it goes a little higher here, all the way up to 2 seconds. So I just, like I said, a few races that I've had here, I'm in the same boat everybody else is. Relatively new track, not a ton of laps here. The couple times that I've done laps here have been in a truck and in a cup car, and man, we ate those tires up in both those cars.
So for the first time tonight, we'll hop in that Blackhawk Motorsports Shake and Bake in-car cam. Currently riding with the number 94 of Troy Radford. You can see he is chasing down Steve Baker. Currently holding at 0.2 of a second back there. He's got Matt McMeekin behind him. This is how they've rode since about coming off of turn 4 on lap number 1.
Yeah, and you talked earlier about possibly wanting to do a fuel strategy. I mean, there's like 3 different strategies you can employ here. You can, tire strategy, try to go for the undercut, get the fresher tires. Guys will go long, and that's, where the fuel strategy comes in. Well, right now, Radford is saving fuel, and he's getting a bit of a draft from the 55 there of Baker and letting him pull him around the track a little bit. So he will get a little better fuel mileage, thus he can go a little longer on a stint if he chooses to do so.
Continues to follow Steve Baker around here early. The front 3 now have broken away from Chris Medford in 4th as he's battling Dustin Ping for 4th there, but continue to be single file for the most part. Looking back through the field, Derek Myers now in the top 10. He was able to get past Jimmy Hetrick. He's up 7 spots. As we mentioned, he got into the wall during his qualifying run. He's got Hunter Tate in front of him, who's worked his way into the top 10 as well. And then, as mentioned, Dustin Ping, he's up 3 spots, now into that top 5 position as he follows that 46 of Chris Medford. Some of our movers here early at Nashville, as this time by will complete lap number 20 of 115.
We've had a couple of one caution, and we've had a caution-free race too, I think, this year too. So this, I won't be a bit surprised if this doesn't end up being one of those kind of deals.
We've had, well, for the most part, one or two cautions is average. We have had a completely green flag run, and then we've had Martinsville was the most. I think we left there with some total carnage of about 18 cautions, which should make those short tracks of Hickory and Bristol entertaining.
Yeah, I've got Hickory circled. I've run an SK race there and a Tour Mod race there, and yeah, that's going to be an action-filled night for sure. We're going to have to keep our heads on a swivel to make sure we keep up with the action.
Looking at those teams you talked about earlier, John, you've got Blackhawk Motorsports, which consists of Dustin Ping and Mike Massengale. Dirty Air Racing, which includes Brian Mescal Jr., Steve Baker, Lance Yancey, and Brian Littleton, a very successful team all season long. Falcon Motorsports has Matthew Cope, Chris Medford, Roy Radford, Brandon Medford, and Troy Radford. A lot of success there as well. But we've seen them come in on pit strategy. Obviously, some of the super speedways, that's come into play. Even some of the mile and a halfs it has. But then looking back, even last week, they didn't really all pit together or really play into strategy. But at the end of the race, we did see that teamwork come into play. How do you kind of balance that at a track like this at Nashville?
Well, I think everybody's going to do what's comfortable for them first of all. But if you're in a position to where you can tell your teammate, hey, so and so is running high and making good time, or if you find a line, hey, wow, I got about a half a lane off of the yellow line on the corner, just picked up a 10th. You can relay that to maybe somebody that can help and maybe even gain a spot. But we just had a change for second place. Matt McKeekin got around Radford. So he moves into second there. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things teammates can do. I mean, these guys are all really respectful. You're not going to see anybody up there going all Formula One and trying to block a guy or hold a guy up, that could be coming through the pack or anything like that. But information sharing, that's probably the biggest thing about having teammates.
So as you mentioned, Matt McMeekin moves into second. Radford's car did not look comfortable there. That also allowed the 46 of Chris Medford to race up to the back of him. So that 4-car pack now up front pulling away. Matt McMeekin now trying to chase down that 55 of Steve Baker. We'll see if he'll be able to make a move for the lead, as Steve Baker's led the first 25 laps. This time will be lap number 26. And we've also moved into that window where here in the next probably, 20, 25 laps, some guys will be pulling onto pit road.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little sooner than that. I think probably in the next maybe 15. I think guys will probably start to peel off onto pit road. But we'll have to see. The experience I've had here with tires, and I'm watching these guys now starting to slide. I race dirt by trade, and these guys are starting to hang the back of these cars out like I would a dirt car.
Matt Meekin was able to get to the rear of Baker going into 3. He'll fall back through 3 and 4, back into Troy Radford's clutches. You can see that movement of the cars coming out of turn 4. Speaking of dirt racing, John, the Corey Pro Late Model Dirt Series will be back in action 2 nights this week, Tuesday night and Wednesday night. They'll be at Cedar Lake Speedway for the Show Me Dirt 100. That'll be right here on Extreme eSpeed TV. I'll be on the call with Adam Johnson. John Hine will be in his car as he continues to hold down the 9th place in those standings. That's the Corey Pro Late Model Dirt Series here on Extreme eSpeed.
Yeah, Cedar Lake is going to be a track that if I get out of there with the top 10, I'm going to be smiling. That's probably my least favorite dirt track we'll go to.
It seems like you guys have been off for a while, so it'll feel good for us to be back in the booth with you guys. I'm sure it'll feel good to be back in the 71 car as well on the dirt.
Yeah, I've picked up a couple wins over in C2C in that 71 car, that late model. So got a little bit of momentum. But we'll see how it translates over to the Pro Dirt Late Model Series.
So Steve Baker really getting his biggest gap of the night thus far as he works lap 30 around this Nashville Super Speedway. Matt McMeekin continues to ride second, Troy Radford third, Chris Medford in fourth. Looking back at third, it's Dustin Ping. He's up 3 spots since starting 8th, currently followed by Brandon Medford. 7th is going to be our points leader, the 80 of Brian Littleton. He's currently holding off Lance Yancey and Hunter Tate. And then rounding out your top 10 is going to be Derek Myers, last week's winner. Started 17th. He's now up to the top 10. That is your top 10 on lap 30 here at Nashville.
And we do have one on pit road, but it looks like he may have damage to the right rear of that car, but it's Ray Radford pitting out of 18th position there.
So he's technically the first one onto pit road. We'll see when the rest of the field starts to make their way onto pit road. And that's really what we've seen, is that's when the strategy comes into play, and that's when the games start to come into effect. It's also allowed some of these leads to stretch out in past weeks as well.
Yeah, it sure has. And I've kind of gone through the field and watched different guys going into the corners and going into the corners and coming out of the corners. There's almost nobody who doesn't have the back ends of their cars kind of dancing around. And at the speeds that you go here, that is not a comfortable feeling.
You can see the top 6 there continue to race around. Troy Radford started on the pole. He was our Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award winner tonight. He's fallen back to third after running second the first half of this run. And as we were talking about before this race, John, this is feeling like one of those races that's going to fall into either a long green flag run. A lot of our cautions have maybe been some slight contact after pit stops where it's bunched some guys up, or guys trying to move back up through the field or around the tail end of the field cars. but this is feeling like one that could be green for a while, and you're really going to have to use your equipment to try to gain on some guys and complete those passes.
Yeah, and maintain it, not abuse your tires and everything else, which means, early on, if you feel like you've got to overdrive your car to stay ahead of somebody, it might be best to maybe let them go by. And maybe at the end of the run, it'll turn out that they've used up their tires and maybe they'll fall right back to you and you can pass them back after 15, 20 laps of a run.
So Steve Baker currently leads by about 3/10. You've got Trey Radford falling back to that 46 of Chris Medford. He's done this a couple times. Chris hasn't been able to get past Troy as of yet. That's a close battle on the track. Everyone else is spread out between 4 and 7/10 of any of the cars near them. As we work lap 36, it's Steve Baker in that 55 machine out front. Continues to lead. Currently leading that 41 of Matt McMeekin. Currently riding with Matt McMeekin with our Blackhawk Motorsports Shake and Bake in-car cam. You can see that gap that the leader currently has on him. And as we work lap 37, John, it has a feeling that those green flag pit stops are going to come quickly, as they're now almost a second off of the pace that they had to start this event.
Yeah, they are, and then they're having a harder time sticking to the bottom. Now I'm noticing a lot of guys are moving up a half a lane higher just because they can't keep their cars back on that bottom lane here. But they continue to get looser and looser on corner entry and corner exit, and that could end up giving us a caution. I think right now, I don't think it'd be all that hard to maybe get that back end out from under you and go for a spin.
Thinking back until way early in the season, maybe even the second or third race at Auto Club or Vegas, I don't feel like we've had a caution that came at the right time where the entire field came down and needed it. I feel like it's either come right after a run, in the middle of a run. It's really
we got one on pit. Yancey's on pit road.
So Lance Yancey and Bobby Hedrick will hit pit road this time by. We'll see what that does. Once those guys start getting fresh tires, that really puts pressure on some of the other guys to make those pit stops. As we watch Steve Baker coming around, and our leader is pitting this time by.
39 laps in. Oh, wow. Derek Myers dirt tracked it off the banking and onto pit road. How he didn't lose that car, that so far has been the save of the night.
Which it's interesting, Derek Myers came from 10th. That puts him on the same rotation as Baker. We've seen those two cars battle as of late. As Matt McMeekin takes over the lead, he'll stay out.
Radford's in. Radford. 94 Radford, he's in, on his way.
Hunter Tate joins him on pit road this time by as well.
Well, based on this strategy, they may pit one more time before the end of this. So if it stays green here, getting on and off pit road and just not into your pit stall is going to be critical. You can make up so much time. We saw it, even though in the interview last week, he said he was playing it safe, but Meyer made up a heck of a lot of time getting on and off pit road.
So watching some guys go on and off pit road. Trey Radford will join the group on the track now. See how this shuffles through. As Matt McMeekin continues to lead, Chris Medford, Dustin Ping, Brian Littleton, Jimmy Hetrick, your top five, as Littleton will pit this time by. And that
and this is, I was going to say, and this is where we could see a caution when these guys get back on the track and there you go. Wow, I'm a prophet, I guess.
And it looks like it was the Lance Yancey machine for our first Willis Landscaping caution of the night. We'll take a look at that replay. And turn 4, He got sideways. It looks like maybe Hunter Tate got into him once he was sideways. He'll slide into the infield grass there. And that is our first caution of the night on lap 43.
And that's what I was just saying, that this is where we see a caution about this point in time, because guys get back on the track and they try to get maybe that little bit more to make up time, and they can lose the car. And wow, it's kind of cool when something happens when you're talking about it.
The prophet that is John Hine is here in Nashville.
Yeah, too bad I couldn't pick those winning ticket numbers from the other night.
You would not be here with us tonight, I'm assuming.
That's a pretty good assumption. I'd probably be back. I mean, I have a good time, but my schedule definitely would have a lot more vacations built into it, so you probably need a second announcer for a good probably half the season.
Fair enough. Looking at how this shook out, I'm trying to see if Littleton had made his pit stop there.
He had just gotten in, so yeah, but there's a couple of guys that hadn't made it yet. And looking at the running order, 8 cars are on the lead lap, so just kind of crazy. Now, those guys will pit, so I'm sure a lot of those guys will now be in front of them, and they'll get the wave around. But yeah, this will be pretty wild to see how this shakes out once they all get around that pace car.
So it looks like Steve Baker's making his way around. We'll see how this shakes out. There looks like there was 7 that needed to pit there.
Yeah, and Baker might have gotten the wave around where these other guys are behind, but I think they'll be in front of the leader. So when the lights go out, I think they'll get the wave around since they didn't pit. One of which is Derek Myers, too, by the way.
Yep, you can see Derek up there ahead of Matt McMeekin. So we'll let this get sorted before we try to figure out where everyone's currently running.
Yeah, McMeekin went in as the leader. He's just now coming off of pit road, and appears that he'll come up behind Matt Kopp. It looks like he's going to pass Matt Kopp.
Our first Willis Landscaping caution of the night, lap 43. First 38 laps were led by Steve Baker. Started the night with Troy Radford on the pole, our Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award winner tonight. And in the middle of green flag pit stops, the caution comes out. And once they get that sorted out on the track, we will have our first Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone of the night.
Travis, go inside the number 46 car. He is shutting that off and coasting, so this guy might be a guy that might think about fuel mileage a little bit later.
We saw this earlier in the year as well.
Yes.
I think it currently reminds me of probably Brad Keselowski the most in the current NASCAR Cup Series. He tends to be one of them that will turn it off through the corners, get it back on.
Yeah, they almost all do now as practice. If you ever watch them, even in fuel mileage, not in the races that aren't necessarily fuel mileage races, they do it just so they're that muscle memory, and it just becomes part of the routine. But you see them do this often now.
I remember. I feel like it's back in the 90s when they would do that. They would have a lot more issues with sometimes that pickup not being there.
Yeah, because back in the 90s, you have those the ignitions now are completely different than what they were in the 90s. Because I think last one we saw have trouble with that was Marcus Ambrose at out there in wine country. Can't think of it. Sonoma. He messed it up and couldn't get her back under power, and it cost him 3 or 4 spots. But the new ECUs that they have will just cycle through a heck of a lot easier. And Matt McMeekin now does look like he's going to regain the lead.
So he is up front. They're double file down the backstretch behind the iRacing pace car. Lights out, so we're going to go green this time by. He's next to Chris Medford, Dustin Ping third, Jimmy Hetrick fourth, Brian Mescal Jr. fifth. Steve Baker is going to restart 8th. So it'll be fun to see him race up through, as he obviously has had a fast car. But that caution will shake things up. They'll move through the Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone here. And as they enter, Matt McMeekin takes off. We are back to green at Nashville. Great restart by McMeekin. He's able to pull away from Dustin Ping, who's now in second. Brian Mescal running third. And Chris Medford will fall into fourth as they quickly get single file down the backstretch.
Yeah, these pit stops with that caution landing in it now really has shuffled the leaderboard up a little bit here. So it'd be kind of neat to see what happens here over the next few laps, because we got some guys that are definitely not in the positions they were before they pitted. Mainly that number 55 there. He's got traffic now in front of him.
See Brian Mescal Jr. able to hold off Chris Medford. That battle was for fourth. Behind them, Roy Hyde trying to make a move on Jimmy Hetrick in that 48. He's got the 55 of Steve Baker behind him down the backstretch. And then back in the pack, Troy Radford's trying to move his way back up. He's got Derek Myers right behind him. They're working the inside of the 22 machine. Derek Myers all the way down on the apron to get to the inside of Radford.
Yeah, he's really got that car turning, but look at they're about to try to split Mike Massengill here. Radford thinks better of it.
Radford drops back. He's now side by side, 3 wide now with Massengill and Hunter Tate through the center of the corner. Derek Myers now raced his way up to 8th, as this group of cars, some of our consistently fast cars all season long, trying to make their way back up to the front.
Yeah, and 2 of the 3 that we really saw up front battling are right there with side by side with Troy Radford and Steve Baker, and that is now, instead of a battle for the lead, a battle for 10th.
Up front, you can see Ping all over the back of Matt McMeekin. 51 laps complete now, working lap 52 of 115 here. Ping all over the back of that 41 through 1 and 2. He'll be right on his tail down the backstretch here at Nashville. See if he's able to make a move going into 3. They'll fall in line. The front 2 really have separated themselves from Brian Mescal Jr. in 3rd. You know, a conversation that I heard come up this week, John, that would, I think, eventually affect this series is what they're going to do with this generation of Xfinity Series car. There's been some rumblings. It's been quite a while since they introduced this, really with the pony cars that they have. Be interesting to see if they do make any changes and what that would do for our light electric company series as well.
Well, from what I've seen, these guys will just roll with it. I think these guys will figure a new car out relatively quick, figure out what you can and can't do with them. I'm sure maybe the first couple of races, there'll probably be some moments that are uncharacteristic of what we're used to, but give them a few races in, and I'm sure they'll have those cars figured out.
In other racing news, I don't know if you saw, Craftsman is coming back to the truck series most likely. It's a nice throwback sponsor coming back into the series as Ping makes a move on McMeekin through 1. He'll slide up. It'll open that inside line back up to Meekin. We'll see if there's a crossover move down the backstretch. They're side by side going into 3. We'll see how this shakes out through 3 and 4.
Yeah, as much fun as that is, you know, we're not even halfway yet. I'd be careful about how much I'm going to use my stuff up horsing around like this.
I feel like we're back in Knoxville. Almost contact there through the front stretch. That should shake things out as Ping's able to pull into the lead on lap 55. Felt like I was back at Knoxville there for a minute, John.
Yeah, we had a lot of slide jobs during that charity deal we did this past week over there in those wing cars. But, Yeah, I don't know. A slide job at Knoxville on dirt at about 120 mile an hour in a 360 sprint car is a whole lot different than doing it in a big stock car at 160 mile an hour.
And Matt McMeekin gets back onto the tail of the one. As it's held so far, those front two cars all night have been able to get stuck together, and really that leader hasn't been able to shake the second place car all night.
No, he hasn't. But unlike before, these guys have pulled away, and I wish I had paid attention. We got a little more separation amongst the top, 5, 6 cars. But I think that maybe the top, maybe 3, maybe 4, are on a bit fresher tires than some of these other guys are. That I think pitted a little bit earlier. So I think they might have, 5, 6, 7 laps newer tires, and I think that's allowed them to get away.
Yeah, so you've got the top 4 who've pulled away, all pitted on lap 44 during that caution, as Matt McMeekin still making a move on Ping going into 1, continuing to try to get that lead back. Then behind them you have Derek Myers in 5th, Steve Baker in 6th. They pitted on lap 39, and then it's 44, 40, a bunch of different laps beyond that.
Yeah, I think, and Baker really, he restarted 8th. He hasn't really clicked off a lot of spots here, and I do think even just those few extra laps on tires, especially when they come out on brand new tires, that makes a pretty big difference.
As Matt McMeekin's able to get a great run coming out of 4th, move up right to the rear of Ping each and every lap down the front stretch. And looking back at Baker, Derek Myers was able to get past him during this run as well, as you've got about a group of 4 cars that have just fallen in line, drafting their way up. As you see the 94 Radford make a move on Hyde on the inside. That battles for 7th.
Yeah, if you're in Derek Meyer and Baker's position right now, both those guys know they have fast cars. Baker, led for a good part of the early part of this race. It really is beneficial for them to get in line and push each other around the track, share a draft. So if they just start fighting amongst themselves, those leaders are going to get further and further away from them.
So you can see Radford and Hyde continue to battle. Ping's now got about 3/10 of a lead over McMeekin for 2nd. As we continue to watch Hyde and Radford, this battle is for 7th on the track.
Boy, neither one really wants to give an inch on this one, do they?
No, they continue to race side by side. We're currently riding inside next to Roy Hyde with our Blackhawk Motorsports shake and bake cam. You can see down the front stretch they continue to be side by side. And we've seen some guys really battle, whether it's the leaders or these two back in the pack here, John. And we've still got about 50 laps to go. And what you have left with your car and tires is going to come into play for sure as this continues to be green out here on the track.
Yeah, and they pitted around lap 30, between about 39 and of course with the caution out, so who knows how long the other guys would have gone, but 39 to 44, which means definitely one more pit stop. But the big question is now, do you want to stretch it? Because the further you stretch it, that also means you're going to have fresher tires to the end. So would you like to have fresher tires than your opponents? Let's say at lap 105 to 115. Now you've got to think. Now a lot more strategies are going to come into play here.
So up front, it continues to be Dustin Ping. He's led since lap 55. We've had 3 leaders tonight: Steve Baker, Matt McMeekin, and Dustin Ping. As it was Troy Radford leading us to green. He currently runs 7th. Derek Myers started towards the back. He is up 12 spots. He's currently our hard charger. He's up into 5th. And you got to think we're about 10 to 12 laps from maybe some green flag pit stops occurring, John.
Yeah, if it holds true what they did a little bit earlier. But, some of those guys that short pitted that might have lost out on that whole deal, he may be a little more gun shy to do the short pitting again to try to make up that time with that fresher set of tires. But we'll have to see when we get there. Lap 39. Based on that, we're looking, like you said, about 12 laps, maybe before the pit cycles open up again.
So working lap number 67 here at Nashville Super Speedway. You're watching Extreme eSpeed TV. As always, thank you for tuning in on your Sunday night, getting your week started with us here. Make sure you head over to the Extreme eSpeed Network Facebook page. Give us a like. We are the official home of the light electric company NextGen Series and also the Coolray Pro Late Model Dirt Series, who has a busy August coming up, along with our NextGen Series here, racing every Sunday through this August before Labor Day break.
Lots of racing. You're going to be busy up here going around from track to track.
I will be all over the place, see some cool dirt tracks.
We'll have to call you the Cody Early of iRacing.
I really am, with his travels across the Southeast as of late. I'll probably have to catch the couch at Andy's house one of these nights as well to get all these in.
No, good way to break in the new place over there. We should say hi to Andy Piercefield over there, Mr. Coolray himself. But my big question is, he's got that rig set up yet? We need to see him out on these Pro Dirt Late Model races.
He will be there Tuesday for sure. I know he spent a lot of time on it today. So he will be back. It'll be back from a new location than normal. So then he'll just have to make sure everything's connected correctly.
Oh, good for him. Well, we'll look forward to seeing him on track too on Tuesday. But before we get to Tuesday, we still have quite a ways here to go, and these guys are minding their P's and Q's. It's almost like tandem racing. As I look through, you got the 2 leaders. You got a little separation between third and fourth, but then you've got 2 more pairs behind them. So which tandem is going to be the quickest?
Well, we could have some green flag pit stops coming up. We did have one caution back on lap 43. That was Lance Yancey,
who has taken his car back to the hauler here. It looks like he's packed up, and his team looks like they're going to be heading on to the next race.
He's currently in the 18th spot with 50 laps completed. 13 cars on the lead lap. Then you have 3 1 lap down, 1 car 2 laps down. So not the night Lance wanted. He was running well, moved up into the top 5, was in a good spot until he brought out that caution, which is now shaking things up. Dustin Pink continues to lead now. 72 laps completed this time by.
And I really have to say, I'm really surprised Baker, Radford, those guys have not made up the ground that I really thought that they would here. So I guess clean air, as you like to, you hear all the time when the real world, clean air up front makes a big difference. And I guess the same is true here for these guys.
It really is, as Dustin Ping, Matt McMeekin really separating themselves from the Chris Medford machine back in third. Brian Mescal Jr. running behind him kind of in his own place. And then you have Derek Meyer, Steve Baker, Trey Radford, Roy Hyde, Brian Littleton, really about 5th through 9th that are more closely running, even though the 5th place car of Derek Myers has started to separate from the rest of them as well. And if you look at it, Derek Myers has 5 lap older tires than those top 4, but he's running better or closer times to them than he is the others that pitted the same lap as he did, John.
Yeah, in fact, he's gotten a little separation from Steve Baker there, and he's starting to track down the 4th place car. So he's evidently, taking a little bit better care of his stuff. I've noticed he's moved up the track down there 1 and 2. He's no longer on that yellow line, and when you run the bottom like that, you're putting more wheel, turning that wheel further to keep that car down there, which will eat up that right front. But yeah, even over here in 3 and 4, he is a whole lane higher than like Baker and Radford and those guys.
From his in-car, you can see Brian Mescal Jr. up ahead. And with only 18 cars tonight, these green flag runs, we haven't had any traffic issues for the leaders, as it's really been clean air for them out front the entire night, John. And I think even with some pit stops, it may not even come into play for the most part with 13
Baker's
cars.
coming. So is Meyer.
Something we need to talk to Meyer about to see if that's by plan. He did that last time as well. As soon as Baker hit pit road.
Well, Meyer came first this time, it looked like.
And they're the only two to pit this time by.
Yeah, we'll see now if anybody else answers and goes in this time as they come by. I don't see any of the leaders diving down there yet. So, yeah, those guys are doing their thing.
We'll see if it's actually a game of pitting at the same time on purpose or not. And who knows if we'll get the right answer. I don't know if you watched Indianapolis today, John.
I did.
I think there'll be some debate on the Ross Chastain move of whether that was planned or, as he said, a last call on his part.
Nah, he planned that. I watched that. He was already committed going straight before. He said he didn't want to get into that wreck. He was already committed and going straight before that even happened. He never even made an attempt to get in there, because if what he said was true, he would have attempted to go in, probably felt somebody next to him and made evasive action to go straight. He didn't even make an attempt, and neither did Austin Dillon.
As the storylines continue to revolve around Ross Chastain, which I don't think anyone would have picked when this season got underway back in February.
Yeah, but you could almost see it coming. This is a guy who wrecked a teammate at Daytona, not even for a win, and the number 8's now headed to pit road too. But yeah, you go around and quite frankly, you tick that many people off, you're not winning a championship. Trust me, there's no way those guys are going to let him win it. And here comes Dustin Ping in too.
So Dustin Ping will give up the lead. Matt McMeekin up front now.
But yeah, there's no way those cats are going to let him win a championship. He's going to have a real tough go. I'll be surprised if he gets out of the first round.
Well, and when you have Denny Hamlin, which I think is probably one of the most thoughtful, strategic thinkers out there on the track currently, that's not the guy. He'll take you out when he knows when it will hurt the most.
Well, yeah, he did at Pocono. He never touched him, but he knew how to make him go up into the wall there. He washed up there and knew that he'd get up in those marbles, and he didn't have to just throw a bumper to him. He just, took up a lot of room, and yeah, those kind of guys you just don't want to mess with.
This last time, 3 guys come, so that'll leave 4 of the lead lap cars out on the track. Matt McMeekin, Brian Mescal Jr., Roy Hyde, and Jimmy Hedrick.
I think those are the last 4 from the last time, too.
As they continue, they all pitted last on lap 44. And we watch back. Steve Baker and Derek Myers, I believe, are a little bit tighter than they were when they came into the pits.
And that could be a matter of Baker maybe getting into pit road a little quicker or be able to get around. Let me tell you, that getting off pit road here, that long sweeping corner, you can go as fast as you want to go there. And boy, if you push it, it's easy to get it to step out. But if you can push it, you can make up ground on that corner or on that exit of pit road there once you get around that corner and back onto that backstretch.
So McMeekin continues to lead out front.
But remember, McMeekin is now giving up a second a lap to Dustin Ping, who was right on his bumper when he pitted. So this could be one of those deals now. Once McMeekin comes in, that he may lose that lead.
And
Mescal,
The other three just moved to pit road, so it's Matt McMeekin, the last car out there. As we'll see if he dives onto pit road this time by. And it looks like he is. So that will complete, once he returns to the track, our green flag pit stops this time, with everyone able to go the distance now with 30 laps to go.
And Dustin Ping just went by McMeekin, so we'll see if what happens here, if he can get back around, see how close they are.
And it looks like it's going to cycle around to Derek Myers as the leader.
Yeah. Well, that's a big makeup in time there to get out that early with those tires. McMeekin is just coming off of pit road.
Just as Myers and Baker will move past him.
Oh, he's going to lose out big time.
So that gives the lead to Derek Myers now, our fourth different leader of the night. And he's got Steve Baker not that far behind him, which should... It's a repeat. I think 3 of the last 4 weeks, these two have come down to a battle late in the race. And this time out, at least for now, it's Derek Myers in that 24, but Steve is making some gains on him through 1 and 2. We'll see if this tightens up as they continue on their way.
Yeah, and those guys are making up a second a lap on those new tires. Now their lap times have fallen off about 0.2. So you got to think back to McMeekin, whose lap times could be 0.2 quicker. Well, obviously that second is a big difference between the 0.2. I don't know that he's going to be quick enough to make up that time before those tires kind of equalize out, where the wear is pretty much, with the lap times and everything else just equal out.
So don't count out that 46. He's got 5 lap fresher tires, currently about a 10th faster. See if he's able to make some ground on that Baker machine currently running in second. And
yeah, and Ping just pulled right up to his bumper too.
So we'll ride along with Dustin Ping. Currently riding 4th. He's behind the 46 of Chris Medford. It's always crazy to me, John, when we cycle through these green flag pit stops and when we come out on the other end, the battle is tighter than it was going in. And this is that same group plus Dustin Ping that was racing closely together before pit stops back there in about 5th through 9th.
Yeah, this time there wasn't a caution to throw a wrench into the works, but I am surprised the undercut worked that well. Those guys just made up a ton of time to regain the lead.
And Baker continuously just chips away. He's picking up about 5/100ths of a lap each time on Myers right now, as we've now got 25 laps to go in the National Kidney Foundation 153 at Nashville Super Speedway. And that front 4 is really getting packed together now down the backstretch. Yeah,
3rd and 4th are quicker than 1 and 2, so we'll see how this plays. And I mean, we're getting down to it. That we don't have a whole lot further to go.
As Medford will make a look, at least take a look on the 55 machine coming out of turn 4. See if he takes another peek going into 1. He does. Oh, gets loose.
Oh.
Slides up. That'll open the door for the number 1 to move to the inside as they save it. Great driving by both Baker and Ping.
That was a wreck that just didn't hit anything. Wow. Good driving, absolutely.
So with that, Medford will give up the spot to Ping. Ping now battling Baker for second. Medford still regains his speed and looking for a way between both of these guys in front of him. And that opens the door for Derek Myers to put some space between this battle.
Oh, yeah. Meyer right now is looking in that rearview mirror going, yeah, guys, just keep it up. Fight amongst yourselves. And, now these guys are going to have to use up their stuff a little bit to try to run him back down. But now that Ping has cleared him Ping has already put a couple car lengths there on those other two.
Matt McMeekin's popped up now. He's up
And
to
he's got
fifth.
way fresher tires.
And now he's looking for a way past these. And there's contact between Medford and Baker. Baker will slide up the track.
Yeah, I'm going to bet Baker's not too happy about that, but I don't know if that was Medford's fault totally. Medford looked to the inside of Baker, and then McMeekin looked to the inside of him there, and sometimes 3 into 1 just doesn't go.
So that'll move McMeekin up to third now. We'll see if he'll be able to chase down Derek Myers and Dustin Ping. Dustin Ping is currently 3/10 back and continuously gaining on that 24 of Derek Myers. Looking at last pit stops, Derek Myers lap 76, Ping lap 80, Matt McMeekin 85.
Yeah, so McMeekin should logically have the best car right now, but like I said, there's going to come a point where all those pit stops are going to become irrelevant, and those tires are going to pretty much equal out. So whatever Ping's going to do, he probably would need to do it here relatively quick if he really wants to use the advantage he has with tires. If not, he's just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and work them over.
So that front three really tight racing down the backstretch now. Derek Myers leads, but Ping and McMeekin looking to get back to the lead. Myers has led since lap 86, and there will be 19 laps to go this time by.
Boy, you can sure feel the intensity start picking up. These guys are, we saw a lot of give and take early on. I am not seeing hardly any give and take at this point. McMeekin's going to the inside down the backstretch.
McMeekin looks to the inside of Ping for second. Again, Derek Myers loving the side-by-side action behind him.
McMeekin, those new tires just allowed him to cut that corner on the bottom, take the short way around, and get a good run. He completes the pass now as they go down into turn 1. Yeah, I guess here we go. It's going to be the 41. Let's see if he can get that lead back.
So Matt McMeekin making his 70th start in the Light Electric Company NextGen Series. He has one career win. Looking to claim number 2 tonight, but he's going to have to get past the Derek Myers machine. And they've put a gap on Ping back to third as McMeekin's cut that lead down to 0.2 of a second from Myers.
Yeah, it looks like McMeekin gets a better run from about the center of the corner on out. And there you get a little bit of block here from Meyer. McMeekin's to his inside. We just saw this movie with McMeekin and Ping. Exact same spot, exact same result. Be able to get a better run coming out of turn 4 there. And I was questioning if those new tires, if that was going to be enough to get them back up to the front. I guess that's a good thing that I'm up here and not down there.
Well, it just felt like he had dropped back too far.
Yeah.
And we saw that group of fast cars that had gotten ahead of him, but that extra 5-6 laps on his tires really coming into play. He'll lead lap 100. We've got 15 laps to go in the National Kidney Foundation 153 here at Nashville. And now Derek Myers has Dustin Ping all over the back of him. Those fresher tires really coming into play.
Yeah, especially in the center of the corner. You know, it looks like Meyer doesn't want to stay on the bottom. He's got a little bit of a push now. Doesn't quite have the grip level where Ping is able just to really hook the bottom of that track and get a run out just exact like McMeekin did. Oh, Meyer blinked right before that, at least for me.
And that will be a caution on lap 101, our second Willis Landscaping caution of the night. This one for Derek Myers.
Yeah, and he backed it into the wall there pretty good. But like I said, at least for me, he blinked all the way from corner entry and then blinked back in right as they made contact. So you can't put that one on Ping.
All right, it's time to put your Larry Mack hat on, John. Any takers to pit road here with 15 laps to go?
Yeah. There's going to be somebody to roll the dice. If I'm Baker or Radford, maybe I do. I mean, looking here at McMeekin's last lap times here, let's see what they were. Now, they can't probably look at this information, but his lap was a 31.30. Oh, they're coming in. They're not even going to mess with it. Everybody's coming in.
All the lead lap cars will come down pit road. So now it's a race off of pit road. And see if anyone takes two, John.
Boy, you just like that thickening of the plot, don't you?
I do. I'm all about the story on the track.
Well, I don't know. I think I take two. That's probably no fuel in two.
McMeekin's, they're taking
No, I
four
say,
up front.
yep, they're taking four. I'm seeing both sides go up.
It's going to be McMeekin, Medford, Ping, off of pit road. Steve Baker, good stop for him, up to fourth.
Yeah. He took advantage of iRacing's, hey, you can drive through the guy in front of you on pit road. Didn't have to come out of his pit stall and try to go around the 94, just right through the pit stall. Well, I know you like the thickening of the plot, but I don't know if this caution you could have done a whole lot more to thicken it up here. This is man, I don't even know where to start and who to watch and predict here.
Well, it's gonna even out the tires, which we haven't had for some of these lead cars. So it really merges a couple groups together up front. It brings Steve Baker back up into the top four. Obviously, someone that knows how to win. And it's probably the last thing Matt McMeekin wanted to see as he was starting to pull away with those pressure tires. Now he's going to have to hold off Chris Medford, Dustin Pink, Steve Baker, and maybe even Troy Radford restarting in fifth.
Yeah, if we were in Matt McMeekin's probably earpiece or listening to what he had to say when that caution came out, I'm going to bet our general audience probably couldn't have heard it. They would have just heard one big long bleep.
So we'll see if he'll be able to hold on.
I feel like that 46 and that 55 on brand new tires are the fastest.
Those two have looked good all night. I think I'm putting a little bit more into Steve from his just historicals. I would say that 46 has looked strong here tonight.
Yes. But we really haven't seen McMeekin up front because he didn't get to qualify. And so the couple of times when he ran everybody down after that pit stop, that pit cycle. We didn't think he. So Matt's been on it. I mean, he's been fast. Ping's been fast. You know what? I might just be quiet and what does Fox do? They always do the turn it up. I think once we go back read the last 15 laps, just be quiet and turn it up.
We'll crank it up. We'll bring out that gopher that Fox used to have.
Oh God, I forgot about the gopher.
We're gonna see. McMeekin's led almost 25 laps tonight, so he's been fast. I think it's going to even it out, and whoever's able to win this is definitely going to earn it.
Well, and he's also on the inside, so is that line going to be an advantage? I mean, he also gets to dictate the start, which is an advantage. So, I think he gets everything clear at least by the time they go into turn 3. I think he's going to be in the catbird seat. He's had the pace.
Well, and like in real life with our Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone, but on the track it's that Geico restart zone. I feel like the last 2 weeks we've had that. It's given the leader an even bigger edge of just mind games of when he's going to take off and go. I feel like designating that area doesn't make it easier to judge when he's actually going to take off.
Yeah, and it gives the guy that's sitting third an advantage too because he's looking straight ahead and he can see the guy fire where the guy on the outside doesn't have that.
So our Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone is up. Matt McMeekin will take off. Good restart for him. He's going to be able to be in the lead. Baker's right alongside Ping. That advantage not as much for Dustin Ping, but he'll battle back on that inside through 1 and 2. Great run up to the back of Medford as the front 5 break away down the backstretch. 9 laps to go at Nashville.
Yeah, Baker made an uncharacteristic mistake there. He overdrove the corner, got back in the gas a little bit, and pushed coming out of turn 2, and that opened the door for Radford now. He's going to fall back to 5th.
Medford really pushing it turns 3 and 4. Sideways coming out of 4. That'll open up the door for Ping going through 1 and 2. As McMeekin loving this battle for second behind him. As Dustin Ping sideways coming out of 2.
They were both sideways. That's going to bring Radford into it.
Really pushing the limits now with under 10 laps to go. See them come off of turn number 4. Radford, Baker, Ping, and Medford battling for second.
Baker is on he's down on the apron through the trioval. Oh, Ping overdrove it. Look at him go up the track, and that takes Medford up the track.
So that opens the door for Radford to the inside. McMeekin loving this. Almost a second lead now as he's coming to 6 laps to go.
Yeah, he is, and I don't know if any one of these guys, I mean, there's going to come a point in no return that even if one of these guys get clear, there goes Baker back down to the apron. I don't know they'll be able to run him down. McMeekin is just hooked up and gone.
Medford will get loose in 1 and 2. That opens the door, but it's Radford, Ping still running side by side for second. Matt McMeekin's out front now, 9/10 of a lead in front of these two. He's coming to 5 laps to go this time by.
Crossover by Ping here.
Ping's able to regain second now.
Yep. And here comes Radford.
Feels like a dirt race with all these crossovers.
Sure does. Except for these guys, like I said, are going about 160 mile an hour down the straightaways.
Radford slid right up in front of Ping's nose coming out of 4 as they'll cross it back over. Ping will take the lead in 1 and 2. Out front, it's Matt McMeekin. He's now got a second lead over these guys battling for second on back. Steve Baker's now moved into 4th.
Yeah, but has nowhere to go. Those two keep sliding each other, and now Medford's going to the inside of Baker.
Great racing here to end the night.
Couple laps to go.
And you can see Steve Baker's got some damage on his rear now.
Yeah.
As he remains side by side with Medford down into down the backstretch. Still side by side into turn number 3. And it's Matt McMeekin out front. He'll have 2 more laps to go this time by.
McMeekin does have those 2 laps to go, but the battle still for that 4th place is the best battle here amongst the leaders.
So McMeekin, his lead down to 7/10, but he's going to get the white flag this time by. He's got Dustin Ping, Troy Radford trying to chase him down. As mentioned, this is Matt's 70th start, the Light Electric Company NextGen Series. He has 1 career pole, 1 career victory, 8 top 5s. And as he makes his way through 3 and 4, he'll come out of turn 4 here at Nashville, and Matt McMeekin will pick up his 2nd career Light Electric Company NextGen Series victory. 2nd, Dustin Ping. 3rd, Troy Radford. 4th, Chris Medford. And Steve Baker will round out your top 5.
Whew, that was an intense last 5-6 minutes of that race. Holy cow.
That caution really caused some drama for us there at the end, and it's Matt McMeekin able to race his way back up through the field and claim victory at Nashville.
Yeah, it makes me think, man, I wish we could go back to the glory days of NASCAR when they wanted just to throw those cautions to bunch everybody up. You know, that went out the window during that finale when they did that and cost Carl Edwards a championship. From what I understand, Toyota was not a happy camper about that and let NASCAR know it. And I think that's about when when those Phantom cautions changed. But I say bring them back. Boy, that was exciting.
Great finish. As usual, we will be interviewing our podium finishers, Matt McMeekin, Dustin Ping, and Troy Radford. So as Matt celebrates on on the front stretch there at the start finish line, he'll pull into Century Victory Lane for the second time in his career as we wait for those top three drivers to join us.
It's got to be exciting. You know, your first one, you get that, and you get a little weight off your shoulders. And at least for me and places I've ran, I get that first one. It's like, see there, I can do this. The second one is more of a validation. See, I do belong here. You know, I can do this. And well, I bet you Matt's gonna really, really be feeling good over the next few weeks here. Expect him to probably carry this kind of momentum over for the next couple of races at the very least.
Well, and with that, we'll get it started. Joining you, John, we have our third place finisher, the 94 of Troy Radford.
Troy, this is John up in the booth. You got a copy?
I do. How are y'all doing tonight?
Not too bad. Boy, I tell you, that final caution made things interesting. Tell me your thought process and what was going out in front of your windshield there those last, 15 laps or so?
I mean, honestly, it was just kind of trying to stay out of the mess. The car was pretty good. I think Matt was the one who deserved the win just from watching, speed and all that stuff. So I think the right guy won there. But my car was kind of better mid to late run, and I kind of got trapped down by that caution on the pit stop on older tires, and it just it was good for me to get back and finish in the top three. It looked like I was going to finish like 7th to 9th or so with the way that it was going to play out there at the beginning, but I just get up here and get a top three. Can't complain.
Well, top three means, hey, good points tonight. And, you're sitting there, I do believe, like about third in the points here. How does the point situation, kind of dictate how you run these the second half of the season here pretty much?
I mean, honestly, the same. It just kind of paying a little more attention. It looks like I had some really bad luck last week. About an hour before the race, my computer crapped out on me, and I had to run over to my dad's house, run on his rig, and it just, was not comfortable. And I was not comfortable the whole night, and still was looking like I was going to get a top 10 and kind of maybe maintain my points lead. And then, a couple cars got in front of me, and with my luck, if cars get together in front of me, I'm never going to make it through. I'm always going to end up right in the middle of it. So, lost a bunch of points last week and gained most of them back tonight. So I think with Travis being out tonight, I should be second in the points, maybe just a couple behind Brian. But it's just try to beat Brian every week. That's all it is. Just kind of keep an eye on the guys that are a little further back, maybe, be a little smarter with the way I'm racing certain people, and, really just kind of keep an eye on where I'm at in comparison to the other guys.
Well, next week is Pocono, a vastly different racetrack. What are your expectations going to the Tricky Triangle?
I just keep it clean. I mean, I always enjoy racing Pocono. I like old Pocono better before the rescan, but I was really good there. Here, I'm just kind of, it's okay for me. So I've won some races at Pocono, enjoy racing there actively. So hopefully I can come away with a good finish, and hopefully I regain the points lead next week.
Well, after Pocono, looking a little bit further down the road is Road America, Hickory, Bristol, Talladega. Is there a track that you have circled that you see still on the schedule that it's like, okay, there's my track? Is any one of those gonna be that track for you?
I mean, I'm usually pretty good on the short track, so I'd like to think Hickory's a good shot for me. I can usually be like top 3 to 5 on road course, especially Road America. I'm pretty decent at, but I don't have the speed of like a Steve Baker and those guys who are really good on the road courses. So I don't ever expect to win a road course unless something stupid happens. So I think really my shots are going to be more the short tracks. I'm usually really quick at Bristol, and I usually end up getting taken out at Bristol. So I enjoy racing Bristol, but I hate Bristol too. So.
Well, I tell you, we're going to look forward to seeing you down this stretch run here for these points, and congratulations on a podium tonight. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Of course, a big shout out to all of my sponsors with Lucky Fin Project, Evidence Based Mommy, National Kidney Foundation, and of course, this being the National Kidney Foundation race, I was really hoping to pull one off for the guys over there at the Lucky Kidney. Lucky Kidney, wow, National Kidney Foundation. But glad to have those names out there, and a lot of really cool stuff. If anybody's ever thinking about a kidney donation or has any questions there, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk about it. But definitely some awesome stuff out there, and thank you guys for doing what you're doing.
Well, congratulations again tonight. That is Troy Radford, our third place finisher here.
Now joining us, our second place finisher, the number 1 of Dustin Ping. Dustin, it's Travis up in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Dustin, could you kind of walk us through your night? It kind of ebbed and flowed. The cautions really came at certain times that shook up the field for sure. But how do you kind of overall score your night here at Nashville?
Overall, I'd give it an A+ since I've ran like crap the last month and a half or so. But yeah, this is way better than what I've been running. So.
We saw you were kind of grouped together with Troy, Chris, Steve Baker, and even Derek Myers there at a time. What kind of was that racing around them competitively all night under close conditions? What did that do for you late in the night when you tried to make your run at Matt?
Battling all those guys kind of let Matt get away. I think if I could have got rid of them sooner, I probably could have gave Matt something for the win. But I mean, really good racing by everybody, and really good job by Matt.
That leads to it. Was there anything you felt like you could have done to get up to Matt, or was really those battles to get up to second place really what cost you that chance?
Yeah, like battling Troy there for probably a good 2 to 3 laps. Probably, yeah, just screwed me over. I think if I could have got around him quicker, I would have definitely got to Matt sooner, like maybe 2 to go, or even maybe 3 or 4 to go, maybe even.
Well, it was another great night for you tonight, Dustin. Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Actua, Conrad Group, Shutter Glass, and Blackhawk Motorsports.
Well, congratulations, Dustin. We will see you next Sunday at Pocono.
All right, thank you very much.
And now, John, from Century Victory Lane, you've got our winner, the number 41, Matt McMeekin.
Yeah, Matt, this is John up in the booth. You got a copy? Matthew McMeekin, this is John. You got a copy? Uh-oh. Let's see if he comes back. He went down to eSports, and see if he pops back up here. Mac McMeekin, this is John up in the booth. You got a copy? Oh, no, he left again. Travis?
Hey, Matt, this is Travis up in the booth. Got a copy? Looks like we're having some technical difficulties getting Matt. We'll give him a second to see if he can correct it. It looks like it's lighting up, but it's just not coming through.
Well, I would say if we can't get him through here next week, maybe we need to put a little time aside next week when we come in to interview him. I mean, second win, that's a big deal.
Not hearing Matt come through.
Oh, I'm gonna the broadcast booth there then.
So we'll wrap up here. If Matt's able to jump in with us, we will surely interview him. If not, we will set some time aside during our pre-race show next week from Pocono to talk to this week's winner, Matthew McMeekin. His second career Light Electric Company NextGen Series win. Another exciting night here on Sunday, John. What is your takeaway from Nashville?
Yeah, nice to see a few different guys up towards the front. Good racing once again. Tire strategy. I still cannot get over how effective that undercut was without the caution. I look forward now to next week. A whole different track, whole different thought process, because there you can actually pit and not lose a lap. So Pocono, that tricky triangle up there in Pennsylvania is going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait to get out there.
So an exciting schedule coming up ahead here in August. We'll take a look at our finishing order here for tonight's action. Matt McMeekin, our winner. Dustin Pink second, Troy Radford third, Chris Medford fourth. Steve Baker ends up coming home fifth. You can see Roy Hyde seventh. Our points leader coming in tonight, Brian Littleton, will claim a ninth place finish. And then Derek Myers, of course, had issues there at the end. He was running up front. He will bring home a 13th place finish. Brian Mescal Jr. also some issues at the end there, 14th. So, John, we will close up shop here from Nashville. Again, congratulations to Matt McMeekin. Matt, we will talk to you next week from Pocono, unless you want to give it one more try. Matt, you got a copy?
Matt McMeekin, this is John up in the booth here. Do you have a copy? Still not lights up. Yeah, Matt. Hey, buddy, we can't hear you, but I tell you what, we'll get you in at the beginning of the show next week to make sure we can talk to you. And so keep all these memories fresh if you can hear me, and we'll get you then.
So next week we will head to Pocono with the Light Electric Company NextGen Series. We will start the night talking to tonight's winner, Matthew McMeekin from Pocono. And for another great week of action here on the Light Electric Company NextGen Series, John, thank you as always. I will see you again next week. Everyone have a great week, and we will see you back at a racetrack soon.
This copyrighted broadcast of Extreme eSpeed TV Network is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of the Extreme eSpeed TV Network is strictly prohibited. We hope you've enjoyed this broadcast.